Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Twilight Imperium Junkies podcast. Today, we're talking about the Patreon poll topic, Rand's Guide for Revenge. I want to start here by saying that my stance on revenge, my take on revenge, how I embody the spirit of revenge, has definitely changed over time. I think especially in this last year since Thunder's Edge came out. I did not self-proclaim myself a revenge lady. I think Speedy was the first to dub me as such, and it's hard to shake that kind of reputation. So I do want to talk a little bit about the ramifications of such a reputation. And I want to talk about the fun of revenge, the ethics of revenge, and talk about some examples from my TI life. So let's start by taking a second to define revenge. I would say in TI, revenge is any move or decision or deal you might make in order to hold someone else back or harm someone else's gameplay that doesn't directly lead to your winning condition. I say not directly because, getting revenge on people can slow them down, which does aid in a win in a lot of situations. But as we know, TI is a game of balance, and sometimes something's helpful, sometimes it might be helpful, and sometimes it's simply not helpful. I highlight this because there's actually some strategy that could be found here where you could be playing something off as revenge, but it actually is a game-winning move or something that'll lead to a game-winning move. And everyone might be laughing, thinking it's fun in games, not noticing that it's beyond petty revenge, right? Something to keep in mind. So one of the most common ways I see revenge out there, outside of myself is the threat, right? The counter threat. Someone comes to activate some system or something, and you let them know, if you do this, I am going to go ahead and do this. Let's say they go ahead and do it. You exact your revenge because you want your word to mean something. So that is one of the most everyday forms of revenge in TI. And this form can be done, even if you're not a quote unquote revenge player, right? This is just a small in-game interaction that, every now and again doesn't really give you a reputation or whatnot, but it can provide you with the effects of what a revenge play might provide. I want to also highlight that revenge can extend beyond just yourself as a player. You can be seeking revenge for, say, one of your stooges who's helped you out big time this game. So here's what mostly has been my stance on revenge is I try not to, unleash my wrath if it's a move I would make in their position. So if that's like the only way I can see for them to advance their path, if it gives them significant value when they know I can't retaliate. There are certain situations that even when I'm hosed, don't need revenge. So it's not a one-to-one hose to revenge. It's really did you need to do that hosing? Because if not, then maybe I'm going to hose you just because, a lot of different forms of revenge, a lot of different degrees of revenge. But let's take it away from the abstract for a moment and talk about some examples from in-game. One of my most memorable ones actually comes from a game I was eliminated in, a tournament game over in SCPT land. I think to this day was my only elimination so far, which is, fun because that's a great time to be exacting revenge, right, on your way out the door. Basically, I was a Yssarl player, left my home system pretty open for the taking. That's definitely on me, but my L1 neighbor hopped on over and refused to take everything I owned to let me remain in this game. This is round 2. I don't really have other docks to build out of. It's clear it won't be it won't be good for the Yssarl if this happens. In fact, it would be pretty much over. And so once they made that move, I had the tools in my toolkit that I had, which were my action cards and Spynet. and I had to look for another player who was down for these kinds of shenanigans. And so I found, if you know them from our server, Aquaman, who was playing Jolnar that day. And I let them know that I have an infiltrate in my hand, along with a lot of other juicy action cards that could create a very satisfying narrative here. And that's what happened. I gave him Spynet. I think there were other action cards involved or something, but it was the infiltrate that made for the full circle. L1 took my dock and, assimilated it, built out of it, and Jolnar got to do the same at their dock at home. And the idea is, if all of L1 stuff wasn't in my, home system, perhaps it would have been less of a nuisance for them to get their home system back. But that is a fun revenge story, I think, because there was some poetry there. It wasn't just revenge via fleet death. It was, you assimilate me, they'll infiltrate you, and the circle goes on, and it was fun. That was a good time. Another instance was a Total War game where, again, from our server, if you know Big and Huge, decided to play an action card to exhaust a 5 resource planet I have so that they could gain 5 trade goods. This is where we talk about revenge as a bit of a tactic. This is a Total War game, and this is kind of early in the game where we haven't really solidified who's attacking who or which direction people's fleets are going in, so there's no official, declarations of war or forever war yet. And here comes Big and Huge as the Caleris, taking my value before I get to build. So it made for an easy joking, like, okay, I'm gonna eliminate you, I'm gonna kill you, because this is Total War. And then I ended up teaming up with their other neighbor, and surely enough, within a round or two, Custodia Vigilia was all that was left for the rest of the game. And I want to highlight that this was not because of the action card play. This was because the fleets that were destroyed along the way amounted to multiple points for me. But it did create for a light social layer, and perhaps one that happened to slightly distract from the fact that I was indeed really eyes on the prize, total warring it. So, revenge can be used as a bit of a distraction tactic, and I think this is happening to me more these days, since my revenge has kind of toned down from my more feral TI days. I was also reminded of a time where I was in revenge lady mode, and I kind of backed off and made peace, and one might say became a stooge. So peace is possible, you guys. You don't have to commit to revenge. Use revenge how it serves you. It could be easy to be swept away and, keep on it, even when it stops serving you, both in game and emotionally. As long as it's serving you in one of those places, please feel free to revenge all the way. My advice is, explore letting things go, which is crazy coming from me because I feel like that was not in my former revenge days. And that is an attitude I've been cultivating in my newer revenge form. Gosh, how many times did I say revenge in this podcast? Someone, count. Let's take bets or something. This is wild. So if you've developed a sort of reputation long term or in a specific game, there's something else you can use to your advantage, which is, announcing your good relations and forgiveness, kind of pointing out where where you're not taking revenge, reminding them that you could be a wild card, you could be, playing a little atypically, but you're not. You're here, you're good relations, and I found that that does create for a fun, I mean, it's a facade of a social dynamic, but it can create alliances. Yeah, I know, right? Crazy alliances via the lack of revenge. I mean, clearly all of this is very dependent on table conduct and table state, the board state. If you can't exact revenge. I mean, you can make a show for it for social fun, but perhaps just don't. Perhaps save that for something else, you know? Games are long, things can change. Something else I'll touch on is that the journey does not have to be a lonely one. You can recruit people in your revenge schemes. You can incite other people's revenge schemes. You can, which we call stirring the pot, at TI Junkies. There's a lot of ways revenge shows itself at a TI table. Sometimes it's not even named. Sometimes it's not even spoken of. Sometimes it's not even noticed. So, always be aware of what's going on socially. Be aware of what's going on the table. Be aware of the tools you got. One of my favorite tools for revenge, the Yin flagship. Get Grav Drive, get Lightwave, get Sling Relay, get Biostims. If there's a Nomad at the table, you know what you want. You know what you need. Revenge tools are everywhere. Don't sleep on them. And perhaps finally here, be aware of the ramifications you are inviting when you go on the revenge path. If you're expecting that counter revenge is not going to happen, I mean, always expect it. It might not happen, but expect it to happen and then have that inform your decision of whether or not you're going to do this. And the whole table social dynamics come into play here. Do people play really quote unquote by the book? Do they have a certain way they want the game to play out? And will they punish anything that veers from that? Are they all behaving as a unit? And does the revenge wild card threaten that? What is the table vibe? Some tables are on the other side of the spectrum and really promote revenge. They're spicy, they're saucy, they're unpredictable. They will use revenge as a tool, as an excuse. Uh, I will say, I don't think I've seen that many very high level players use revenge, just for emotional satisfaction. I certainly have, but you know, it's definitely worth looking at as an in-game tool as well, if not just as an in-game tool. So, reading the room, expecting consequences, being prepared for them, or just willing to accept them. And hopefully, my biggest word of advice is to just be aware, just always be aware of what it might bring. And if it's appropriate, which is always subjective and varies from person to person. So find out where revenge lies within you, what your relationship with revenge is, and when you're going to bring it into your TI games or other aspects of your life. What do I know? What do I know how you guys live? I don't know anything. So those are my words to you about revenge. Thank you for tuning in to this, podcast that's near and dear to my heart, a topic that will always be a part of me. Thank you to our patrons who voted for this topic. I appreciate it. It was a fun, quick chat with you guys. And the next poll is actually up now. So get on there, vote. Let me know what you guys want to hear next month on the TI Junkies podcast. I appreciate all of you who support, all of you who listen, all of you who engage in our community and join in on the TI fun. I'm glad we all have an affinity for this game and have found each other. So good luck out there, and let us know on the Discord if you get entangled in any fun revenge plays, whichever side of it you might be on. We love to share in those stories. Take care, everyone.